A lot of people, Dave, are going to be going out and they're going to be buying franchises, right? Because they've lost their jobs, and they need to know that a lot of times when you join a franchise, they treat you kind of like an employee, and you're really
like an indentured servant. I mean, in some cases, but there is a way to rectify things.
For millions of people, owning a business isn't just a dream. It is the dream. And on the surface, buying into a big-name franchise like McDonald's, Subway, or Burger King looks like the perfect, convenient shortcut to success. A proven brand, a clear system, and people already know what you're selling. What could go wrong? Well, as you're about to see, a lot. In this video, we're gonna pull back the curtain on what actually happens after the handshake, from high fees to forced promotions to unfair contracts and unprofitable locations. We're gonna show you why so many franchise owners end up overworked, underpaid, and stuck in a business they thought would set them free. But the real reason why most franchises and franchisees fail, and why only a few succeed, might not be what you expect. So let's get right into it. If you lived through the 2010s, you probably remember the jingle.
Footlong Nation rejoice right now.
It was everywhere, a marketing triumph. Subway's brand exploded. College kids and workers and everyone in between lined up for a cheap, fresh, relatively healthy lunch. And meanwhile, behind the counter, franchisees were getting crushed because for every $5 sandwich sold, the owner was making maybe 50 cents, if not less. Hundreds of Subway owners signed a petition begging corporate to end the promo. One operator wrote, "We're operating at a loss and can't pay off our debts." But the deal stayed. Why? Because Subway corporate wasn't losing money. They still got their 8% royalty off the top. So if you sold 100 sandwiches and lost money on every one, it didn't matter. They still got paid. That's the misalignment. They dumped more work on franchisees with the promo, but it was only profitable for corporate.
Bottom line is this: there's a couple in Pennsylvania that bought a Quiznos sub-franchise, and 8 months later they got a letter from Quiznos terminating their franchise because a mystery shopper had been in there and determined that they were just 1 ounce short on the meat that they put on a Philly cheesesteak sandwich.
One Quiznos operator in California opened his store in 2007. By 2009, he was losing money every single month. Not because sales were bad, in fact, sales were great, but Quiznos forced all franchisees to buy food and supplies only from corporate-approved vendors. Problem was, those vendors were often subsidiaries of Quiznos, and they charged way above market prices. The owner eventually found out he was paying nearly 30% more for ingredients than what a local wholesaler would charge, and yet he couldn't switch. He was contractually locked in. Thousands of other franchisees were in the same position. Over 10,000 of them joined class action lawsuits, alleging corporate was bleeding them dry. The lawsuit stated, and I quote, "Quiznos systematically siphoned profits by overcharging for required inventory." One franchisee named Aman Dev Mani even took his own life, leaving a note blaming Quiznos corporate for his financial ruin. Quiznos eventually settled for hundreds of millions, but it didn't matter. The damage was done. The chain collapsed from over 4,700 locations to fewer than 200 today.
When someone asks me what I do for a living, when I say I own a Quiznos, I think they get a little jealous sometimes.
I've been an owner for several years, and they've always had a real focus on quality.
It's important to remember that purchasing a franchise is like any other investment. It comes with risk.
Only 16% of food franchise owners earn more than $200K. A third earn under $50K. In many cases, these owners will earn less than some of their employees. They fail because the math doesn't work. Take a McDonald's owner grossing $500,000 a year, right on the system average. Now, subtract 4% royalty fee, 4% ad fund fee, rent, labor, food supplies, repairs, equipment, credit card fees, and after all that, they're left with maybe $85K in profit, if they're lucky. And that's before taxes, before they pay themselves back for the $200K they invested up front, or the loan interest, or the 70-hour weeks, or the smelling like grease all the time. They didn't buy a business, they bought a stressful job.
And I think another myth, so you can tell us true or false, all you have to do is sign on the dotted line.
Oh, yeah, just sign on that dotted line and you are going to be an instant success.
I take it that's a false.
That's a false. It does take a lot of hard work.
When we first arrived at this Burger King location on Telegraph in Southfield, we found the door locked. You can see the sign that says permanently closed. And in the parking lot, men leaving in a U-Haul. We asked them what happened and they told us the owners of this location could not reach an agreement with Burger King corporate.
In 2023, Burger King announced it would be closing 300 to 400 underperforming stores across the US. Several large franchisees had already filed for bankruptcy. Too many locations, too much competition, not enough margin to survive. Same with Subway. Over 600 US stores shut down in 2024 alone. For 9 straight years now, Subway has closed more locations than they opened. In many cases, the stores weren't empty, they just weren't profitable. The volume was there, the profit wasn't. What's worse is that for many franchisees, their only way out is to close or sell at a loss. They can't pivot, they can't rebrand, they can't stop paying royalties. The franchisor keeps making money, the franchisee gets left with a debt, broken dreams, and maybe even a second job.
The landlord of the first Quiznos location says Denver's high property taxes are the reason the chain is branding that store unsustainable. The sandwich shop opened at the corner of 13th and Grant back in 1981. Hard to believe.
Here's the hard truth. The franchisor doesn't need you to profit. They just need you to sell. They collect royalties on gross revenue, fees for advertising, rent in some cases, supply chain markups, upfront franchise fees. And to be fair, it's not always malicious. It's just how the model is designed. You can be underwater, losing money, and they're still cashing checks. All they care about is total volume and brand awareness. That being said, they definitely have an interest in their franchisee succeeding because more successful locations means more volume and better branding in the long run. So now we arrive at the massive elephant in the room. Why is it that some locations, around 20% of franchisees on average, are able to turn a great profit while the other 80% don't? Even in cases where they have lower total revenue, less traffic, fewer customers, the exact same constraints from corporate, they are still able to turn a profit. Something must be going on here.
My name is Joey Entry Kusi, and I'm a franchisee with McDonald's. I first came to the UK when I was 22 years old, a very young, energetic individual here to study for my master's degree. And I had an opportunity to work for McDonald's as a customer care assistant. And so went away, built a career in consulting, but then kind of always felt that urge to come back to be part of that Mac family and help coach, train, grow other people as well.
One of the benefits, however, with a franchise is that you don't have to develop the system and the logo and the marketing and all of that. It is more or less a business in a box, and so that does give you a greater opportunity for success.
It's true that there's a trap here. There's an allure for inexperienced entrepreneurs because it seems like most of the hard work is done for you. The branding, the menu, the customers, and their expectations. It seems like you could just open a location and start making good money as long as you don't mess up. But it's actually the opposite. Franchising isn't for beginners. It's for seasoned operators. People who understand scheduling, labor optimization, inventory shrinkage, upselling, floor efficiency, customer psychology, and every single lever that affects cost and throughput. These franchisees don't just run the store, they engineer the business, even in average neighborhoods. Even with the same food costs, the same corporate fees, the same clunky POS system, and the same $12 an hour teenager showing up late for shifts, they still walk away with a healthy profit. So let's find out how and why.
First, you have to assess what are your strengths and weaknesses, and what is your experience. And more importantly, when I work with clients, I do a personality profile assessment, number one, to make sure that their personality is in line with the business, but also, what do they want their life to look like? And, you know, what do they want more of, or what do they want less of? And then we start looking at businesses that fit those goals.
In some cases, like with Quiznos, it's clear that the model was just broken. Almost none of their franchisees were able to turn a profit. However, this led to the collapse of Quiznos, which tells us that a broken model doesn't last. Most franchise models aren't broken, they're just not easy. Let's walk through how top operators actually pull off success under the same circumstances as the failures. Number 1, they crush waste. Every overcooked burger, spoiled tomato, or oversized portion hits the bottom line. Top operators monitor their food cost percentages like a hawk. They portion perfectly. They rotate stock. They reduce spoilage. Cutting food costs by just 2% on a $500K store, that's an extra $10,000 in your pocket. Number 2, they staff smart. Labor is the biggest cost and the biggest lever. Bad owners overstaff or pay people to stand around during slow periods. Great owners build schedules based on actual data, hour-by-hour foot traffic, peak rushes, local events, anything to give them an edge. They might run with 3 staff when others use 5, with 0 drop-in service. This can save thousands of dollars over the course of a year. Number 3, they drive local traffic. Corporate handles the big budget ads, but local marketing? That's on you. The best operators hustle. Flyers to schools, deals for sports teams, catering local businesses, shaking hands, knowing names. They turn just another chain into the neighborhood spot. They make their business a member of the community. Number 4, they run tight books. Ask a top franchisee their break-even point. They'll tell you down to the dollar. They know their food cost percentage, labor percentage, rent percentage, transaction volume, conversion rate, and average ticket. They don't just react, they manage. They don't just hope for profit, they engineer it. Number 5, they scale up. Many successful franchisees own 2, 3, even 10 or more stores. That scale unlocks shared resources, a floating manager, bulk ordering, centralized training. They turned their business into an empire, but they didn't start that way. They started with 1 store and they ran it better than anyone else.
The franchising model is one that has been tried and tested for many years. So when I thought about going into a business, for me, franchising was pretty much a no-brainer. And McDonald's is the top of the pile when it comes to franchising. To me, McDonald's represents family, it represents community, and it represents a sense of belonging. I had a lot of support from the network. I spoke to a lot of franchisees in the system who had been through a similar journey to myself and were able to share very unique insights and perspective that helped me consider whether I was doing the right thing. It's also about being a very key player in the community and helping do the right things for society.
Here's the truth no one puts in the brochure. Franchising is not passive income. It's not a hands-off investment. It's a business model built for high-performance operators. If you treat it like a shortcut, you'll burn out. If you treat it like a business and you run it with intention, you might just actually make it.
What about the franchisor making a lot of money?
Well, obviously, you want to, this isn't a hobby.
Right.
The goal is to create income and wealth, but it does take time. Just like when you started a new career, it took time to build the corporate ladder. When you start a franchise or a business of any kind, it does take time to grow that.
The franchise model isn't broken, but it's unforgiving. The system doesn't reward average. It rewards excellence. Real estate, you can delegate. SaaS, you can automate. Franchising, you have to operate. Most failures start with the wrong expectations. I'm Mark, owner and CEO at Magnetic Alliance. We help business owners grow their profit, cut the noise, and reclaim their time, because running a business shouldn't come at the cost of your freedom or your life. And that's what this channel is all about. We're here to break down what actually works in business, not just a theory or feel-good motivation, but real battle-tested strategies that get results. If you're a business owner, operator, or someone who's serious about building something that works and lasts, make sure to subscribe, because we've got a lot more coming. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.